You found the Live Local Marketing Podcast, where business owners share their knowledge about what's working in the market today. No fluff, just their experiences and stories from people who are making it happen. And if authentic, practical marketing resonates with you, be sure to visit livelocal.warmmarketing.com and learn to grow your business on warm marketing referrals. Now, on to the show. Joining the Live Local Warm Marketing Podcast today, we're Sean. Sir, how are we feeling today?
Feeling great.
I'm ready to go. You got a jacket. Great. It must be a little chilly where you're at there.
Oh, I'm in Atlanta and it gets below 50 and people start freezing.
Oh, that's too cold for people. That certainly is. All right, a little bit about you, and then we'll hop right into the questions. Sean Shannon is the founder of Strategic Growth Design, and he believes that most companies don't stall because they lack effort. They stall because the decisions that are actually move deals forward live only in the founder's hands. And today he works hands-on with owner-led companies to extract funder judgment, bind it to real data, turn it into visible decision systems, and sales teams can actually use. He's led senior sales organizations at iHeart, Audacity, Cumulus, and he's served as market president, teaches at the university level. That's a big old resume, sir. Can't wait to get some of these answers. All right, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's do this. Talk to us about a time where you had a loss and it turned out to be a win.
Oh, man. I'll just talk about a quick disruption that happened. I grew up in the radio industry, selling local radio, local advertisers. Hardest thing in the world to do. You're selling air. It's intangible. And there are huge expectations in terms of ROI. So I'm sitting there in 2004 or so, and a couple of things can sort of come together. The first is that I realized with broadband internet, kind of getting to 80-90%, we suddenly, our value proposition's dead. We no longer own, the large audiences. You can buy TV, radio, cable, outdoor. Now suddenly thousands of places, thousands of competitors. I am looking, I was early on the Music Genome Project, which became Pandora. And I was listening for a couple months. I thought, we've got competition coming our way.
Yeah.
And then I found myself at work watching SNL's Lazy Sunday, the first video that went viral on YouTube. And I realized, holy moly, we got to change our value proposition. So, I began to work with my team on not being about selling audience, but about selling expertise and understanding about the consumers that our programming reached, so that we could then turn around and own the messaging as opposed to the medium. And so, what we ended up doing was building out an in-house ad agency inside the radio stations so that we could provide our customers with messages that they could spread across all of these new competitors. We needed to own the customer based on our marketing expertise and our ability to develop messages, as opposed to the audience that we were out there selling them.
Wow, that is a big shift. Big shift. That's great. All right, so let's talk about when you sit down with clients and coach them. What is your favorite strategy? What's your favorite marketing strategy now that you get super excited to teach and go in there with them?
That's an interesting thing. So let's think about sales and marketing, right?
I struggle with that question.
Let's think about sales and marketing as these two buckets, right?
Yeah.
We tend to think about sales as being one-to-one. And so, personal selling can only happen, it is unscalable. And we think about marketing as that engine that brings leads into us that we can then sell one-to-one. Well, AI is changing the whole thing and the lines are blurring. So I like to talk with clients about the fact that we can now do one-to-one selling at scale. So I can have an AI SDR go out, scrape LinkedIn for my ideal client profile, have them reach out from the individual salesperson dozens and dozens of times a day, making connections on LinkedIn, dripping emails, all coming back to that individual. So now suddenly the salesperson is the hero at scale in the sale, which then turns our attention to the fact that our marketing's got to change, right? Now suddenly I don't have a salesperson spending 60% of the time prospecting because AI is doing it for them. I can then reinvest that money into marketing that helps my company become world famous in its target segment, so that As the salesperson is using AI to go and find clients at scale, the marketing is now helping clients find the salesperson at scale, right? So it's just an entirely different way of thinking about how sales and marketing interact. And I don't know if I explained it very well.
No, yeah, I totally get that. So if you're going to scale though, how do you still stay authentic and keep that individual that's we're going to need because AI cannot do that. And so to avoid the saturation, we still need to be authentic. How do you do that? A quick break before we get to that next answer, because I know that answer is going to be brilliant, which is why I chose this moment to interrupt. If you love what you're seeing and you want to run your business off of warm marketing referrals, visit our website, livelocalwarmmarketing.com. It's got valuable resources, office hours, memberships, the book, an array of resources to help you get rid of cold calls, cold leads, door knocking, and run a business you can be proud of through referrals and warm marketing. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, this is the key part. It's about message. How do you ensure that the outreach is being done authentically in the voice of that salesperson? Don't let AI write these things. Have the individual write them. Right.
Okay.
So AI is only as useful as the thinking of the person who's using it. Right. So if I got a salesperson that tends to be, humorous, tends to be irreverent, let's make sure that messaging comes out in that voice. Let them write it. If this person's provocative, let's make sure that the outreach they're doing is as provocative as they are. Right. So let's put the power of the messaging back in the individual's hands. Let them craft it.
So essentially, when the client finally does pick up the phone, that salesman sounds like the message. It has to match.
Because they're the ones that wrote it, guided it, made it happen.
That's really good. I like that. That's really good. All right. So of all the different things you work on and do now, what things do you still handle personally, and which stuff do you hand off to like a VA or a team?
Okay. So I just hired my first VA. So I still handle most everything. I hired a bookkeeper, got that off my desk. So I got somebody to pay my bills and take care of that. I am a mess that way. The thing, right? Completely total disorganized. I am allowing AI at this point to do my LinkedIn posting, right? So I'm writing the things and then scheduling them and allowing an AI agent to push those content pillars out for me. But I think, at the end of the day, the thing that you always still have to do is provide the judgment for whatever tool, whether it's your VA or whether it is, the AI enablement that you're using, even your bookkeeper. We've got to transfer the judgment that we use to those that work with us. It's the same thing I find when I'm working with small businesses. The owner is just really irritated. They've got 5 salespeople that don't seem to be able to go out and make deals the way they make it. Well, there are judgments that owner has in their head intuitively that they're making as they are out on a sales call. This is the basis of founder's magic. I know how to shift, turn, and make adjustments to what I'm offering because I know the business so well. So we've got to knowledge transfer that judgment into the salespeople and empower them to go out and use those same tools that the founder has just intuitively in their heads. And it's the same thing as you're running your own business. But make sure your VA understands how you think so that they can make decisions independently of you.
And that's the magic sauce right there. That's the tough part to do, right? Yeah. All right. So let's make that shift. So when you sit down and you talk to those your brands, the businesses you work with, and talk to them about branding, especially when you're trying to train that AI to kind of handle some of the menial stuff and take it off your plate, how does that branding conversation go? What questions do you ask? How do you get the brand out of them?
Well, so I tend to think of brand, really uniquely American idea, right? It found its origins in the stockyards of Chicago and Kansas City, right? Brand has always been related and impacted by technology. The idea of brand came around because of railroads. Now suddenly cattlemen could move cattle at scale. So they needed one, some way of identifying their own cattle from somebody else's cattle.
Yes.
And so they put brands into them, right? Coca-Cola became the first, packaged goods brand with the invention of the sealable bottle top that allowed fizzy beverages to be transported for hundreds of miles and last for months and months, as opposed to being poured out of a soda shop. So I sit with clients and I say, listen, we've got to be anticipating what technology is going to change in terms of how we go about, with our brand. But it always starts in your story, starts in your purpose for being, right? Think about Nike as an example. That's as a company that has had to return to its roots at least a dozen different times that I can identify as I look at them. If you look at that Colin Kaepernick ad that dropped in 2018, that caused a $2 billion decrease in their market cap within 24 hours, that was about burning the fields of non-core consumers. That was about, because Nike is there's a battle for, it's a bit of a pun, but it's a battle for their soul, right? They are a brand that was built on improving and accelerating athletic performance. Just do it. They made the first distance running shoe, the waffle trainer, that was dedicated only to runners that ran, at distance. And yet they became this marketing monster that could produce anything, slap their logo on it, and you wanted to buy it. But you go back to 2014, they begin to disinvest out of sectors where they cannot be the best at accelerating athletic performance. So they started to drop. They weren't making golf balls. They weren't making golf clubs. They got out of certain lines in the tennis business and returned to their core. And so that campaign was about highlighting these beautiful moments of athletic excellence and how Nike made that possible, while also chasing away the consumers that were just buying their brand as a fashion. And the interesting part, if I can just add it, is that the impact of that ad dropping in July was that they saw a 30% year-over-year increase in their Q4 sales.
So, I mean, you have to stick it to your roots. Even if you get shiny object syndrome, sticking to the thing that got you. What is it? Leaving with the lady that came to dance with.
That's it. And it's brand is as much knowing who you are not as it is knowing who you are.
Who you are. All right, so the next question goes right into that topic. It's data. So Nike and these other companies make these decisions based on what they're seeing trend-wise. What data are you using to make these decisions, especially technology? That's a tough subject to know what's going to be happening.
Yeah. It's interesting. So Nike has, because they've got budget at scale, has the ability to go out and, measure awareness, purchase intent, sentiment around the brand. Small, medium-sized businesses can find it in their own customers, right? Okay. The most important data they own is on their own customers. So, let's take a deep dive into our CRM. Let's look at what's our retention rate year over year with our clients. What percentage of clients return and spend with us at the same level? What percentage return and grow with us? Let's get out into our clients. Let's look at our data for our customer mix. 80-20, 80% of our customers generally drive only 20% of our business. 20% drive 80%. Yep. Well, let's look at the 80%. Let's find out, okay, if I look at those 12 customers or 25 customers that are my biggest spenders, what's going on in their industry that's going to either have them spend more or less with me, right? Let's begin to go out and spend time with those people and ask them about why they're spending with us. Peter Drucker's famous for saying that the vast majority of businesses have no idea what their customers are buying. They know what they're selling them, but they don't know what's motivating the purchase. Well, let's do the data dive, figure out who our most important customers are, and go figure out why they're buying from us. What is the purpose? Serta can say they're selling mattresses, but they know what the customer's buying is a better night's sleep. So guess what their tagline is? Serta, for a better night's sleep. What are your customers buying your product to do? I'll just add one last thing, and I know I'm over time on this question.
No, we're good.
Clayton Christensen, one of my favorite, thought leaders, says that we don't necessarily buy products as we purchase them. We hire them to do specific jobs in our lives. And if we can untangle what job a customer is hiring our product to do, we've really unlocked innovation and marketing all at once.
So many gems in that. There's so much stuff. You start with talking to 20%, which really relieves a lot of the pressure because you don't want to.
Yes.
You can interview 20% of your people. That's not, those numbers aren't too crazy. And then you have to make sure that what you do, you're being hired to solve that problem. It's so much, there's so much value in those things. All right, moving to the next one. Even what process, what strategy, what marketing don't you do anymore? Like, this is done. It doesn't work. I've left it to the wayside.
Okay, I'm going to say something very provocative.
Do it.
Google AdWords.
Oh, you don't get that answer very often.
SEO, SEM.
Okay. Why
Both of those things. What we saw, it specifically with smaller businesses, is there was this, hey, I can spend, I want attribution. I want to know that every dollar I spend in my marketing is resulting in X, Y, or Z, whether it's a click, a sale, conversion. What's ended up happening is that the 60 to 70% of the average company in that small to medium sized space has ended up down in lower funnel functions like SEO and AdWords. And the assumption is this: there is somebody in the industry that's creating demand that will lead them to search for the product. And so therefore, I can just wait for the demand to come to me and pay for that click that's going to lead them to do business with me. And this is what McKinsey predicted going back as far as 2015. So they saw that the purchase funnel was no longer linear. What ended up happening was, instead of starting with 2 or 3 in my consideration set, trying 1 or 2 and then purchasing, is that the research process would lead us to adding 10 to 11 new companies to that initial 2 or 3, then go out, try 1 or 2 and purchase 1. What McKinsey found is that if you're in the initial consideration set of 2 to 3, you have a 300% better chance of closing the deal, because the research is not about finding new products. It's about confirming that the companies that I had in my mind in the first place are priced right, have the right number of features that I'm looking for, that there isn't a better option out there. So I can't bring myself to stay within 2 minutes. I apologize to everybody.
I don't want you to. Keep going. Keep going.
So I'm working with a marketing agency. It's a digital marketing agency. What we have seen in the last 6 months is that our SEO and our AdWords campaigns effectiveness have dropped by 40%. The number of clicks total, no matter what we're paying for the word, no matter how well we're doing it, because what we're seeing is that 40% of the people are not getting past the Gemini AI summary. And that's not including the people that aren't using Google at all anymore. They're doing their search on ChatGPT or on Claude or on Grok or wherever they're doing it. And so if you are a company that is investing your business in people finding you on Google, it's not going to work anymore. You've got to be able to create content that's going to get into the large language models.
That's what I was going to say. All right. That was my quick follow-up. Should we be spending more time on being qualified thought leaders rather than paid ad marketers?
See, I mean, I don't care if you are selling the highest level consulting work or you're selling HVAC units. You've got to get into the conversation that AI, large language models, are using, because this is where it's moving. And as it currently stands, I think ChatGPT is rolling out in the next 2 months or so, and ad supported, or a way to buy into those results. But the reality is that, you need to be in the conversation that the large language models are finding.
That is so bro. That is the first time I've had that answer. That is my brain is moving. I'm huge mind shifts. So, all right. So we're going to go to the last question before we get into your business and how people get a hold of you. So I'm going to shift this question a little bit. Clearly, you've gotten your confidence through experience and through knowledge. It's obvious. It's obvious during this conversation. Where are some resources? Where are some places where people should be getting their knowledge to learn more, so that way they too can have a little more confidence in what they say and who they meet?
I'll tell you, my dad was in continuing education through the back half of his career. He was the dean of the Graham School at the University of Chicago. There are so many great courses that you can enroll in if you are in marketing or sales. Go to your local university and see if the continuing education has a digital marketing certificate, or a 3-quarter course on branding, or educate yourself. The people who are going to thrive in a world that is dominated by AI are the people who can bring to the table judgments on what AI should be doing. So get yourself. Find authors that you love that are thinking ahead. I think about the books that Clayton Christensen's written, like Competing with Luck. I mean, that book is 15 years old, but it is as prescient today as it was then.
That's great.
Right. Yeah. Find thought leaders on LinkedIn, follow them. Listen, I have nothing I have said today is an original thought of my own. Not one. Right.
Yeah.
Our job as solopreneurs, as marketers in particular, is to be excellent synthesizers, as opposed to inventors or innovators. How do we take what we see in the world and synthesize it into meaningful actions that we can take with our clients?
What is a book you're reading right now that's helpful?
Oh,
I know those are always the toughest questions, because you're like, what am I reading right now?
Well, this is on a personal level. I'm reading a book called The Soul of Shame by Kurt Thompson.
Okay. All right.
Little deep.
Shame. What's that one about?
It is about the role that shame plays in our neurobiology and in our relationships with each other, and how it limits our ability to connect with our friends, with our families, quite frankly, with the world.
That's good.
That the root of all evil is not money. The root of all evil is shame.
I'm going to pick that one up too. I learned so much in this episode. Like, my mind is like, you can see my brain moving. I always go a little slower. The hamster on the wheel moves a little bit slower when I have these mindset shifts. This was a wonderful conversation. So we're going to do the outro. We're going to have you talk about your business, what exactly it is that you do, and then how can people get a hold of you?
Perfect. So I help, owner-dependent sales organizations, transform themselves from the owner being the hero in business development. I come in, work with those clients. What they generally don't have is a documented sales process. And I'm going to add one thing to it. So I come in and build out, what's our pipeline look like? What are the steps in the sales process? How long should a client be in that? How do we have our CRM match up to it? Is our value proposition valid? Let's define our ICP, not based on what we sell, but on what people are buying. Put it all into a sales playbook. Help transfer that empowerment through good management, through good culture from the owner, so that I end up empowering a sales team that can go out and make owner-like decisions. Sometimes I run it for up to a year and hire my replacement. Oftentimes I just coach the owner on how to continue to empower their salespeople to do what's great. So, but the other thing is, I firmly believe that most companies are misinvesting marketing dollars in sales. If you've got a salesperson that's spending 60 to 70% of the time prospecting for clients, they're using marketing money to do their sales job. So how do we enable AI so that we can reinvest money in marketing? Because I spent my career selling marketing services, right? And so I understand the value of marketing in sales. And so how do let's get sales and marketing fully connected to each other so that they're singing from the same choir book.
That's amazing. Now, where can people get information? You have a website? Do you have a contact? What's the easiest way to get a hold of you to get some of this knowledge?
Strategicgrowthdesign.com is my website. Log on there. I have a very quick, well, not quick, it's a 48-point sales assessment. You can schedule a 45-minute consultation with me. I'll walk you through where you've got opportunities, where you've got gaps, where you've got some real strengths. And, I promise you, it will be the most valuable 45 minutes that you spend on your sales organization this year.
I mean, I've just spent 20 minutes with you and my brain's already going a million miles an hour. So I can imagine another 20 minutes added onto that, I'm sure. We appreciate your help and your time today and all the mindset shifts that we are now experiencing. And I'm going to have to sit down and reevaluate my business once I get off this call. Thanks.
That's always my hope.
Thanks for joining us.
Billy's been great.